Principal of the college, respected Professor Siddhartha Sen, respected Ma'am Mrs. Anita Sen, professors, guests, and my dear students, monks and brahmacharis who are here. It's a great pleasure to be here once again. You keep introducing me as the minister in charge of the Vedanta Society. Well, that's true, but my real identity here is that I belong to Sikshanamandira. So recently we organized an interfaith conference on the birthday of Sister Nibedita. So on that occasion we had talks on the life of Sister Nibedita and her views on interfaith harmony, and there were representatives from different religions. This conference was held in New York, in Manhattan. So as a commemoration of that, we had a little gift which I have bought for Principal Maharaj. So I would like to hand over this gift to Swami Vivekananda. This is Breaking Barriers, an interfaith conference on the 150th birthday anniversary of Sister Nibedita. On Saturday, October 28th in Manhattan, we had this conference. And a little pen. I heard a very interesting story, a funny story about Professor Dinesh Sen from Professor Dipesh Chakraborty, who teaches in University of Chicago. And today I find that Professor Siddhartha Sen is the grandson of Professor Dinesh Sen. The story is very, very amusing, which Dinesh Babu has himself written about his association with Sister Nibedita. A very funny incident. Actually, he was working on the history of India in Bengali, and Sister Nibedita was collaborating with him to translate this into English. One day, he writes, Dinesh Babu writes, that one day he was walking with Sister Nibedita in the narrow lanes of Bagbajar. And as usual, right, even now the situation is same. At that time, a big bull stood there and he was charging through the narrow streets in Bagbajar, and everybody was jumping out of the way and taking shelter. And Dinesh Babu writes that I did what any self-respecting Bengali gentleman would do. I put the umbrella under my elbow and leaving Sister Nibedita on the street, I jumped into a shop to escape from the bull. Afterwards, I peeked out to see what had happened, and I saw Sister Nibedita standing calmly in the middle of the road, and she looked at me and said, "So, this is the courage with which you will fight the British?" So, Dipesh Babu told this in a lecture in Chicago University recently. But it's very indicative of the character of Sister Nibedita and the educational philosophy of Sister Nibedita. In fact, today I will speak a little bit about how far-sighted her thoughts on education were. We all know that she was an educator from the very beginning. She had a school in Wimbledon where she used innovative techniques to teach school children. She was influenced by two names which are very familiar to all the B.Ed students here and M.Ed students here. Pestalozzi and Froebel. So we all know that Pestalozzi and Froebel, they were very great educators. One was from Switzerland and Froebel was from Germany. Pestalozzi, we know that he was one of the first who saw the close connection between psychology and education. He found that learning proceeds from, you do not directly get abstract knowledge, but actually learning proceeds from the concrete to the abstract. So from the sensory experiences, children get abstract knowledge. That's what he discovered, and he wanted to integrate that into educational psychology. So from the concrete to the abstract, this became a mantra for Sister Nibedita. All through her life, in England and later on when she came to India, she used this as a formula. To teach children, you have to move from not directly to theoretical knowledge, not directly to chalk and talk, but from concrete experience, from sensory experience to abstract knowledge, to intellectual knowledge. So she always used to repeat that, from concrete to abstract, from the known to the unknown, from the familiar to the new. Pestalozzi's ideas were taken by Froebel later on, who also added very deep insights of his own. We know the kindergarten system. We have all studied in B.Ed and M.Ed courses. So he was the one who started that. Froebel's gifts. I'm sure we have all come across that in your educational psychology, educational philosophy courses. He discovered that children learn through activity, that play is important. Children are most at ease when they are playing. So how can we give education for very little children, very young children, through play? That idea also was taken up by Nibedita, that education comes through activity. So that was another idea which Nibedita took up. When she was in England, there was this gentleman, Ebenezer Cook, who was very much influenced by Pestalozzi and by Froebel, and he taught this to Nibedita. He introduced her to the Sesame Club, which was a club of intellectuals. At that time, Lady Ripon, Lady Margeson, they were members of that club. George Bernard Shaw, he would speak at that club. Thomas Huxley would speak at that club. And it was through this club that Sister Nibedita finally met Swami Vivekananda. Of course, we know the story how Swamiji inspired her to come to India and to take up the task of teaching children. She first spent some time here in Bagbajar familiarizing herself with Indian conditions before she started her educational work. That also shows part of her educational philosophy, that education cannot be imposed from outside. It must come from ground up. It must be rooted in the local culture. So she found out what is the life of Indians like. She made herself made herself as Indian as possible. After that, she began to think how to give education to Indian children, especially to girls. That was the purpose of her life. Swami Vivekananda gave her this great mission, women's education in India. I remember a very touching incident. Towards the end of her life, her health was failing. And she had already established a Nibedita school, which is there now in Calcutta. Her health was failing and she was to go to Darjeeling to recover. I think in Professor Bosche's house, she stayed there. And she of course never came back, she died there. But she was leaving Calcutta to go. This was several years after Swami Vivekananda had attained Mahasamadhi. So she paid a final visit to her school, Nibedita school. And the school was not doing too well at that time. Sister Christine had already gone back to the United States and there were troubles with the school. So it's very touching. She went there and she was weeping. She said that one mission my Guru gave me, Vivekananda gave me, to give education to Indian girls through this school. And I failed in this mission because when I go away, the school will shut down. It will be finished. Who will take care of this school? She had done so much, as Professor Sen was saying, for art, for science, for Indian freedom fighting, for politics in India, and so much. But that one thing, she said, my Guru has given me this mission and I'm failing in this mission. But in 100 years later, we know that she succeeded actually. Unselfishly, she gave her life for Vivekananda, for India. And so what you do for Vivekananda, that Vivekananda will protect. So today we see Nibedita school is doing very well. Women's education is a big success in India. That's a very touching story, and I always remember that. She writes that teachers must understand that the thought proceeds from concrete to abstract. Knowledge grows by experience, and experience comes from senses. And two senses are always better than one sense as a foundation for knowledge. Today, we talk so much about multimedia education. The children must see something, touch it, and come into physical contact with their subject of study. More than 100 years ago, Sister Nibedita emphasized this, that it begins with sensory experience. It begins with the concrete, and then it goes to abstract knowledge. She speaks about very interesting insights she gives about education. She speaks about training of the feelings and training of choice. Training of feelings and training of choice. That unless we train the feelings and unless we train a person to choose, she says our student has learned certain intellectual tricks that will enable him to earn his bread, but it cannot, she says, he cannot appeal to the heart nor give life. So to inspire, you need training of the feelings and training of choice. I want to stop here and consider this for a while. She does not give so much importance to training of the intellect, but training of emotions and training of decision making, of choice. Just a little while ago, I was speaking with Professor Sen about some of the latest work going on in economics. Professor Daniel Kahneman, he got the Nobel Prize for Economics several years ago. He has written a very popular book, Thinking Fast and Slow. And Professor Sen has already read it, but I have not read it, still it's sitting on my desk in Manhattan. But the central idea for which he got the Nobel Prize was that in life, not only in economics, in life decisions are not made actually by rational choice. Often decisions are made by intuition. Often decisions are guided by feelings. This connection between irrationality and decision making, between emotion and choice, has become a central focus for economics today. Many students are going from India to Western universities to work in economics, and the field is this. Not the old kind of mathematical economics, but a new kind of economics, where the connection between decision making and feelings. Sister Nibedita pointed this out more than 100 years ago, that in education, training of the feelings, training of intuition and decision making is very important. You see, let's think about this. We know many things, but it's very difficult. One of the biggest problems in our life is translating what we know into our life. What we know, what we have studied, what we have understood, what we have agreed is good. How to implement that in life? If you go to any bookshop, you will find these self-help sections. How to become, become rich in 7 days, how to overcome anxiety, how to get friends, how to be successful in life, and so many wonderful. The shelves are packed with these books, and these are bestsellers. Now, if we could implement even 5% of that, our lives would be blessed. But somebody told me, Swami, I have read many of these books, useless. Why? The ideas are good, but it has no effect on my life. We know so many things, but how can we change our life with those ideas? It's very difficult. Why is it difficult? There's a psychologist in America right now, Jonathan Haidt, H-A-I-D-T. He has worked on this gap between knowledge and doing, abstract knowledge and transformation of life. Why is this gap there? He's written a book called The Happiness Hypothesis. It sounds very superficial, but actually it's a very nice book, very, very deep, well thought out book. He says, why is it that we can learn many things, we can understand many things, we agree to many things, but we can't implement in our lives? Why not? For example, I agree it's very good to get up early in the morning and do meditation. Or very good to get up early in the morning and finish my studies. I will study 2 hours in the morning before everybody else gets up. Some decision like that. I agree. Next day in the morning, what happens is very cold. It's very cold here also, in New York. Yesterday somebody asked me, how cold is it in New York? I said, when I came it was not very cold, about -7, -8. I said, oh, that is not cold, -7, -8. So it's very cold in the morning. And when you have to get up, it's very difficult to come out of the blanket. Under the blanket, very difficult to come out. You shut off the alarm clock and go back to sleep. Why? You have decided that I will get up in the morning and finish my studies early in the morning. But when the time comes, you don't get up. Why? The difference is this. Jonathan Haidt explains it with a nice model. The model of an elephant and Mahout. You know what a Mahout is? The person who sits on the elephant and controls the elephant. He says, the Mahout controls the elephant. The Mahout knows where the elephant has to go. So Mahout can read a map, or these days GPS is there. So the Mahout can guide the elephant to go from point A to point B. Elephant cannot read a map. Elephant cannot read a map. The Mahout wants to take the elephant from here to there. Now he will be successful if the elephant agrees. If the elephant does not want to go, who is stronger, elephant or Mahout? Elephant is much stronger. Mahout cannot drag the elephant. Elephant has to agree that I will go from here to there. If elephant does not agree, Mahout cannot do anything. If the elephant wants to go to the nearby shop and get bananas and eat bananas, the Mahout cannot stop the elephant. The elephant is much stronger. What is the relevance of this model? Professor Jonathan Haidt says